Scott wants to qualify for the Ironman 70.3 World Championship in New Zealand. The problem is that he can't push as hard as he wants to on his run training because of pain in his left knee on the outside and running him down the side of his leg. When we talked about this on his free strategy call a few months ago, he told me how frustrated he was that he couldn't push as hard as he wanted to in his training to improve his running performance to get a podium spot in order to qualify for the World Championship. And the restriction, the reason he couldn't push that hard was the knee pain. And he told me he runs in fear. And I felt really bad for him. Scott should be able to push as hard as he wants on his running training and see if he has what it takes to make the spot. Scott is a former professional wakeboarder. He was forced to quit due to multiple knee injuries, and nowadays he is a full-time and then some trauma surgeon in a very busy hospital, where he regularly puts in overtime and night shifts trying to save lives. And in his spare time, what's left of it, he's an Ironman triathlete who wants to qualify for the World Championships. I think it's fair to say that Scott will qualify as a Type A personality. Most of the runners that we work with are. The problem for Scott is that he was going from race to race trying to just run through the pain without taking a step back to really address the underlying issue. I encourage all of my runners to identify and improve their constraint. That's the thing that is holding them back from improving their performance. Now, the constraint could be performance related. Perhaps you can't keep going in the latter part of a marathon because your muscles are too fatigued. In that case, the constraint would be muscular endurance. But maybe it's that you want to do 50K ultra events and you struggle to do the long runs because you get cramping in your abdominal area, and your constraint in that situation is fueling and hydration. So when you release the constraint, your performance improves. So the first step is to identify the constraint. In Scott's case, as with most of the runners that we work with, his constraint was pain. He was unable to realize his potential in the races because he was unable to perform in the run section. He was unable to perform in the run section because he was unable to push hard in his running training. He was unable to push hard in his running training because he had knee pain, and that means that knee pain is the constraint on his performance. And when we discussed this on his free strategy call, Scott and I agreed that the primary barrier or the constraint that was potentially going to stop him from reaching his potential and qualifying for the World Championships was the knee pain. So we agreed on a 3-step plan to release the constraint. The first step was to pull out of the next race, an Ironman 70.3 that he had planned in a couple of months. The second step was to take 12 weeks focused exclusively on resolving the knee pain to release the constraint. And then the third step would be to gradually build up the biking again so he could return to full training in preparation for the next race where he would make his World Championship attempt. Scott had to take a bit of time to think about this. He was due to go on vacation to Europe, so I encouraged him to take that time to really think about how he wanted to approach this. When he got back, he'd made his decision. He pulled out of the race, and we got down to the business of releasing the constraint. Scott diligently stuck to the plan that we'd laid out for him. We pulled back his cycling to 3 hours a week to leave more room to focus on his running workouts and building his strength. We had him hit the gym 3 times a week and lift heavy so that we could improve his strength and muscular power. We kept the running volume pretty consistent, but focused on sprinkling in a little more intensity. After a couple of months, we were starting to see some progress. In Scott's words, now 8 weeks into the program, I'm running harder, faster, and more consistently than all last year. Now, 4 months into the program, Scott is back to full training, and we've got him pushing harder than ever on his runs. He still has a little pain in the knee and on the outside of the leg, but it is improving each month. Now we're having Scott slowly and carefully increase his cycling volume back to where it needs to be to make his World Championship qualification attempt. He's registered for the Panama City 70.3, and we are pretty excited to see what he's capable of. When I met Scott, he told me, I run in fear. What a miserable place to be. Now that we've released his constraint, which was his knee pain, he's back to running as hard as he can. He's leaning into his Ironman training and focused on what he should be focused on, which is his performance. If you're not seeing progress in your running performance, try to identify the constraint. Release the constraint and then see your performance improve. Your constraint could be muscular endurance, it could be hydration and fueling, it could be your aerobic base, it could be your top end speed, it could be your mental fortitude, it could also be pain. If it's pain, we can definitely help you release that constraint. Just click the link below to book a free strategy call and we'll talk about it, see if we can help.